Coming to you from a studio somewhere out there. It's Enough Already Radio with Fingers Malloy and Tracy L. Connors.
And good morning and welcome to another Enough Already. My name is Fingers Malloy. She is Tracy L. Connors. At the bottom of the hour, our good friend Ashe Schow from the New York Observer will be here. Tracy, I guess Rolling Stone magazine finally had to pay up.
Yep.
So we'll bring that up to her and other campus craziness. That's at the bottom of the hour. Tracy, so you know how I'm a fatty.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been able to sleep lately.
Okay.
So a reasonable person, when they get so heavy that they can't sleep at night, would think to themselves, well, geez, I should probably lose weight. Right?
Okay.
Which I thought about for a split second, but then I realized it's just more fun to be fat.
Mm-hmm.
You can eat whatever you want. You don't have to exercise. But the sleeping thing is becoming a problem, and I think I found a solution.
Okay.
I was on Amazon the other day, and apparently pregnant women buy body pillows that you can put your pregnant gut on when you're sleeping.
Okay.
And apparently that will give you the opportunity to have a more restful night's sleep if you're a pregnant chick with a pregnant gut. So I would think, in theory, if I got this body pillow, and they aren't very expensive, they're like $40, $50, and I put my non-pregnant gut on the pillow, I would think that would work, wouldn't it? You're a doctor.
Sure. I mean, is the gut what's preventing you from sleeping? It's giving you a hard time?
Yeah.
Why? Because you want to sleep on your side?
I want to sleep on my stomach. But I can't sleep on my stomach because that raises the rest of my raises the rest of my body 8 inches off the bed. So then I try to sleep on my side, but then the gut wants to pull me on my stomach because of the weight. But if I had this pillow that I could wedge underneath the non-pregnant belly to prop it up, I would think I would be able to sleep.
Oh, my goodness.
That's reasonable, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically you need it to keep you from rolling over.
Yeah, rolling on my stomach and waking me up.
Okay.
But I can't sleep on my side because the gut pulls me over onto my stomach.
And what happens if you try to sleep on your back? Do your internal organs just get crushed?
Oh, yeah. And then I start snoring and I suck in the ceiling fan. And I've got that sleep apnea thing, I believe.
You're a real peach.
Right?
Yes.
Ladies, you believe I'm taken? But no, but at that point, if I buy the full body pillow, does that mean I've just completely given up?
Yes, exactly.
I should just go the Homer Simpson route and start walking around in muumuus and...
Pretty much apply for Social Security disability.
Ooh. That's a good idea. That's working things for suckers.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, sir, what's your disability? Well, I'm really fat. And I can't seem to put down the fork.
Yeah, my arm will not stop shoveling food into my mouth.
It's a disease, Tracy.
I've heard this.
I have a thyroid issue.
Yeah. Clearly. Did you look into water beds at all?
What is it, the 1970s? They still sell water beds?
I would think so.
But
I mean, ever since Freddy Krueger sucked somebody into one of those, I think in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I was done with them.
Well, I would be concerned that I would sit on a waterbed and wouldn't stop. The waves would keep going, up and down, and I don't know. And now that the trend with mattresses, you're supposed to order one online and it comes in a pill box.
Yes. It's like those little capsules that we got as kids that you put in water and they turned into dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like sponges. Uh-huh. Yeah.
You can't do that with a waterbed.
No, you can't.
But I can with my pregnancy pillow. That
There
can
you
come
go.
in the mail. I don't know. I'm just depressed. And then humanity just disgusts me. Walk into a bathroom yesterday, and we'll get to like news and stuff later. But people are really gross.
Did you walk into the women's room again?
No, I didn't walk into the women's room again. But I walk in, and there's a guy doing his business in the stall there, and his phone rings, and he takes a call.
Sure.
Sure.
He could be a doctor for all you know.
No, believe me, he's not a doctor.
Okay. Is he placing bets?
Well, this was at work, and we don't have too many doctors there.
Right. But I mean, was it urgent, or was it just...
Well, I don't know. Well, he was in the... He's going to BS stall, while he's I'm guessing that was urgent. I don't know about the call, though.
Right.
But that's gross, isn't it? Who uses their phone while they're on the toilet?
Most people, I believe. They just won't admit to it.
You've taken phone calls on the toilet.
I don't know if I've ever accepted a call.
Ugh. It's terrible. Okay. I've lost a little bit of respect for you, Tracy.
Oh, there you go.
Because you just basically admitted without admitting it that you've taken a call on the toilet.
I've been on phone calls while on the toilet, yes.
I don't know what to believe in anymore.
It's called multitasking, Fingers.
Oh, jeez. There are some things you don't need to multitask. And and you're not the president of the United States. I mean, you're a busy woman.
Oh?
Well, maybe you are.
In my head, I am, for sure.
I mean, apparently he's just a puppet.
Of course.
The Kremlin has a string, and it's pulling on it. And Steve Bannon, maybe you have a string, too, that you're pulling on. Mm-hmm. Puppet. But, no. I don't know too many people that are that busy, that are that important, that they have to... The phone call can't wait 3 minutes. You know, because I'm sitting there, I'm washing my hands, which is another thing that I don't see a lot of people doing anymore. I guess that's old-fashioned.
Right.
And, his phone rings. And, oh, hey. Yeah, I'm just at work. What are you doing? I was like, oh, this was really important. You had to take the call right now. If that dude knew what you were doing, for all I know, that dude that he's talking to is probably sitting in a stall somewhere else at a Stuckey's or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Whole world's going to hell. Maybe the next thing that needs to happen. Do you take a phone call while you're on a plane?
If you could, yeah.
Well, I mean, before it takes off.
I have.
Because that can get you kicked off a plane,
Not anymore.
Not even on United?
Well, I don't know. It depends on if a member of the flight crew needs to use your phone.
Okay, so what's your take on this? Let's go back because there may be 2 or 3 people who do not know what happened to this chap that was just poor schmuck was sitting on a United flight to Louisville.
Correct.
And
Louisville.
Let's pity him for having to fly to Louisville to begin with.
I think he lives in Louisville.
Oh Jesus! No, I kid. Louisville's a great town. It's fun. It's a fun town, Tracy. You ever been to Louisville?
No.
Delightful.
Okay.
So he's flying to Louisville, and apparently there was a flight crew that needed to fly to Louisville for some reason.
Because, so they had to be on the first flight out the next day. I guess they were manning the flight. Who knows how that happens, that there wasn't another crew. Or why the crew from the flight that this gentleman got booted from couldn't have taken that flight instead.
Yeah.
In the morning. But what do I know about running an airline?
So I guess they asked for volunteers and people didn't volunteer. So then they told people that they had to leave the plane.
Yes. My understanding is they run an algorithm on their computers and say, who is the worst customer on this plane? Meaning, who spent the least amount with us, who doesn't have frequent flyer miles and spend a ton of money every year flying United. Mm-hmm. So who is the most cost-effective person to kick the hell off? And so they found 4 of these people. And the doctor, Dr. Dow, happened to be one of them.
And from what we've been able to tell, the other 3 people who may have been upset that they were being taken off the plane, got off the plane. Mm-hmm. But Dr. Dow, Dr. Dahl, Dr.
It's spelled D-A-O, so I guess Dow.
Doctor Who? We'll go with Doctor Who.
Okay, sure.
So Doctor Who originally got off the plane, but then decided to turn around and get back on the plane? Is that what happened?
I believe that's what happened after he found out that the next flight out for United flight to Louisville was the following day in the afternoon, I believe.
So he sits down and they can't get him off the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden it's like he's a political protester
Mm-hmm.
sitting outside of the White House or something.
Yes.
He's not going anywhere. And so
No.
United calls the Fuzz.
Of course.
And they come in, and all of a sudden it's the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
One cop hits him in the back of the head with a steel chair.
Yeah.
They drag him out. He hits his head on a turnbuckle. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe fudging some of the facts here. But he gets off the plane, and apparently he's bloodied.
Mm-hmm.
So this controversy has basically, it hasn't gone away for the entire week. People are slamming United, saying it's an awful PR mess for the airline. And then you have other people saying, well, we'll wait. The guy acted a fool.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody should leave a plane bloodied, but still, maybe he could have acted a little bit more like an adult here. What are your feelings on this?
Well, my feelings on this are he did act a fool.
Uh-huh.
I think whoever made the decisions at United was very short-sighted in their decision-making process. But they couldn't also have known that this guy was going to freak out the way that he did and cause such a scene.
Yeah.
But you'd think you'd be a little bit aware of the potential when he gets off the plane and comes back on. I don't know what to do at that point, though. Just give it up and say he wins and not involve the police? Because I do think that's a little bit ridiculous. But at the same time, if they desperately needed this flight crew to get to Louisville, it doesn't seem like anybody else was hopping up to volunteer to get off to end all this nonsense, because everybody needs to desperately get to Louisville. And it's worth more than $800 in a night in a hotel to them to do so. But from everything that I've seen, this is totally legal what the airline did, and everybody wants to get annoyed and be like, oh, he paid for that seat and all this. And yeah, he paid to rent that seat.
Yeah.
That seat still belongs to United Airlines. And so if the pilot says, get the hell off, you've got to get off.
Right. My feeling on this is, who hasn't been dragged off a plane before?
Sure.
I mean,
well, I just
really.
wonder if this is going to start happening more and more now.
But going back to your point, I don't get how nobody on that flight volunteered to stay. Where was the flight departing?
I believe
from?
it originated in Chicago.
Oh my gosh, I'd say 80% of the time I'm flying somewhere, unless it is absolutely crucial that I have to be there at a certain time, I always check in and say, hey, you need a volunteer to get bumped?
I'm your dude.
Yeah, give me that voucher.
Well, so you should hold out, apparently, because they did a couple rounds where the first offer was $400 or something to get off, and the second offer was $800. And obviously they're going to need to up these offers in the future.
Well, especially now. I mean, you look at how the prices have increased. The fares are just outrageous now. I remember not too long ago, it would be very easy for me to fly from Indianapolis to Las Vegas for less than $250 round trip.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm looking to go out there in July, and it's damn near $500.
That's crazy.
So
well, it's
a $400 voucher doesn't go nearly as far as it used to.
No, it's cash, I think.
Oh, I thought it was just a voucher. That's the way it used to be in the past. It was like, okay, you could get a voucher for a future flight.
No, I thought my understanding was that it was cash.
Holy crap! $800 cash to hang around an extra day in Chicago?
Right, or just go rent a car and drive. Louisville is not that far from Chicago.
That's the other thing, too. Unless it was a connecting flight or something and the guy was flying from Minneapolis.
No, he had to get to Louisville.
No, what I'm saying is I don't get flying from Louisville to Chicago to begin with. I can understand if that was, leg one on the way home from somewhere else. But, I mean, you figure you got to get to the airport, 90 minutes early, and then you got to hang around and go through all the crap, then fly, and then chances are you got to collect your luggage. It's like a 3-4 hour extravaganza. You can just drive.
Right.
Not have to deal with all that crap. I have not had a cop, but the night is young. I have not had a cop to this day drag me out of my car yet.
Could happen though, and it's actually more dangerous to drive than fly.
Of course.
But if there's money on the table,
right, $800
opportunity cost. Yeah.
Wow, I don't understand that at all.
No, I don't either. I would have gotten off, I think. Yeah. But I don't know. I would have been like, who wants to give me $1,000? And I want a free flight somewhere.
And I do believe that United is kind of getting a bum rap here a little bit, because when they called the police, which I really don't blame them for calling the police, because what are you going to want, a gate agent to walk up there and try to get the guy off the plane? I mean, it's clear that
we've all seen flight attendants, right? I mean,
right.
I'm pretty sure I could take most of them, male or female.
A woman in her mid-40s wearing stilettos is not going to be able to drag this doctor off the plane. But I'm sure when they called the police, they weren't expecting this.
No. But, I mean, well, maybe they did, because why else would they have called the police? He was being indignant. They just don't want to put their hands on him.
Right. But
so they got to get somebody who's legally allowed to grab you and drag you out of there.
Well, wouldn't you expect, as a normal, rational human being, that if you were an employee of United and you were calling the police, that, okay, I understand that this passenger is lipping off to United personnel, but if the fuzz shows up, you would think at that point a switch would flip in the guy's head and he'd be like, oh, well, now things are getting serious. I should probably get off the plane.
Yes, but you're assuming that he's a rational actor in all of this.
And apparently he's not.
No. But optically, it's horrendous. And they're going to have to pay out a big chunk of change to this guy.
So now it's just going to encourage other people to get dragged off of a plane. Hey, listen.
Quite possible, yeah.
I'll throw a fit on a plane, have the cops drag me off if I can get $750,000 out of it.
Just got to make sure somebody's recording it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, they'll drag you and your birthing pillow out of there, kicking and screaming.
Right, and now the bloody birthy pillow. And
oh, God. You have to look as pathetic as possible.
And then I'll just carry it around everywhere like Mattress Girl.
Oh, yeah. There you go. It's an art project. It's performance art. But stories like this always lead to fun discoveries, like the story up on the Mises Wire at Mises.org. Did you know that there is a prohibition on foreign air carriers traveling domestic routes in the United States?
Wait, what?
Yes. So British Airways could fly me from Philadelphia to London, but it could not fly me from Philadelphia to Louisville.
You got to be kidding me.
No, they're not allowed to do domestic routes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just figured they didn't want to get into the domestic market because of the costs.
No, of course they want in.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So there's 4 airlines that take the bulk of all American air travel. It's American, Delta, Southwest, and United.
Where are our Republican friends? Stepping in saying we need the market to determine who is flying domestic routes in the United States.
That would involve getting rid of the FAA too.
Uh-huh.
Because they have monopoly control over who gets to fly, when they get to fly.
So what's the problem then?
Well, and also in this piece it points out that all the airports are owned by local governments. So they get to decide who gets spots in their airport and how much real estate you get in the airport.
Gotta be kidding me.
No, of course it's a big racket.
I didn't know that local governments had a say in
Sure. They own the airports. That's why it's a joke when they talk on the federal level. Like, we need to improve airports. That means giving the city of Philadelphia a chunk of change and saying, hey, use this on the airport. And then they spend it on whatever else they want to spend it on, probably shoring up teacher pensions or something.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Of course.
I mean, shouldn't we raise the soda tax in Philadelphia to help
out
your crumbling airport?
Well, that soda tax drove Pepsi out before they could even be boycotted by people in Philadelphia over that ridiculous commercial of theirs.
But I'm sure that, how long has this soda tax been in play in Philadelphia?
A couple months. I think it was the beginning of the year.
So are you noticing a lot of people losing weight in Philly now?
As if I go to the city.
I just figured there'd be a bunch of thin people running around because of the
No,
soda
I think there are
tax.
people smuggling in soda. I mean, for years, people have left Pennsylvania to go buy booze because it's cheaper. And we border on a whole bunch of states. So it's like, it's cheaper to go to New Jersey and pay the $5 toll to get back to buy your booze.
It's going to be bootlegging Mountain Dew.
Sure. And Philadelphia also has a cigarette tax that only applies if you live in the city. So people come out from the city to buy cigarettes to save money. So they're just leaving the city to buy their soda, and then they're doing the rest of their grocery shopping in the suburbs. So, I mean, the ripple effects are just unbelievable for this. And of course, the mayor just keeps yelling about price gouging and evil corporations like Pepsi who pulled their stuff from Philly.
The convenience stores in Philadelphia, they must be just going nuts right now.
I would imagine, yeah.
I mean, the amount of revenue that they get out of cigarettes and soda.
Well, and the other ancillary purchases that come along if you go in for a soda or something. When I smoked cigarettes, which I haven't done in almost 7 years now, I would have to go buy them, right? Mm-hmm. And so you go to the convenience store and buy cigarettes, and while you're there, you're like, oh, you know what? I can use the soda.
Yep.
Maybe I'll buy a few other things. So when you stopped having to go to the store to buy cigarettes, you're not buying all that other stuff too.
Right.
So that's taking a chunk of their business.
Well, it's their own fault for price gouging, Tracy.
Of course. Yeah, price gouging by passing along the tax to the consumer, as if that doesn't happen with every other tax that's foisted on corporations.
What about tax gouging? How come we never hear about tax gouging?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
I read a piece, and I shouldn't bring it up because I don't have it in front of me, but property taxes in Illinois are getting to the point where they're just pricing middle-class families out of Illinois.
Sure.
Where their property taxes are more than their mortgage.
Oh, it's insane. Around the area where I live, it's like that in some places. People have $40,000, $50,000 a year in property taxes to pay.
Gotta have those pension funds fully funded, Tracy.
I guess so. They can't ever get enough. But, the tax price gouging is an interesting argument, and it makes me think, we're allegedly going to get a tax reform bill. And this is when you get this nonsense where they're saying, oh, we need to make up for the lost revenue that we would have had. We have to pay for these tax cuts. And she's like, are you insane? How is this language acceptable? That would be like me saying, oh, I bought this lottery ticket and I expected to win the Powerball, $500 million. And now I have to pay for that $500 million that I anticipated having somehow. No, you're talking about expectations versus reality. You're not having to pay for anything. I get it that they're forced to spend a whole bunch of money every year because that's the way the budgeting system works. But give me a break here, kids. Stop lying about how this whole thing works. You just need to steal X amount every year. And if you're not able to steal that amount just through income taxes, then you're going to find another way to steal it.
Well, you said give me a break, and we have to take one.
There you go.
So that's what we're going to do. And when we come back after the break, Ashe Schow from the New York Observer will join us. Stay tuned. More of Enough Already after these words.
Enough Already Radio is on Facebook. Check out the fan page, facebook.com/Enough Already Podcast. Hey, you're on Twitter. I saw that tweet, man. So is Fingers and Tracy, too. Follow us. Follow Fingers at Fingers Malloy. Follow Tracy at Tracy L. Connors. And me, I don't have a handle on Twitter. Oh, all right. Well, follow those guys. When do I get I'm just the announcer guy. Yeah. It's Enough Already Radio with Fingers Malloy and Tracy O'Connor.
And we're back. Good news, kids. Boy, Tracy, I'm really excited about this. We're launching our brand new website, which makes sense because it's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're launching it. We wouldn't be launching an old site. A brand new site, enoughалready.us. It's here. Check it out. Going to have the podcast on the site as well as pieces written by some of your favorite columnists that you've never heard of. So look for it at enoughалready.us. But joining us right now on the Enough Already hotline is our good friend Ashe Schow from the New York Observer. Hi, Ashe.
Hey, Fingers. Hey, Tracy.
How are things with Ashe?
Things are going really, really well.
Well, that's good. Well,
yeah.
You know, it's not going very well right now for Rolling Stone magazine.
Mm.
They're
No,
having to shell out
absolutely
some cash.
not. They finally are settling with the University of Virginia dean, Nicole Aramo, who was vilified in their 2014 article, Rape on Campus. That was the whole article. We all remember that was this horrific gang rape at UVA, and it turned out to be a complete hoax to the point where the guy that supposedly lured this girl to the fraternity house didn't even exist. She completely made him up in order to, like, catfish some other guy that she had a crush on. Like, there's something wrong with this girl. So the dean sued, and it went to trial last year, and the jury found Rolling Stone and its publisher and the writer of the article, Sabrina Rubin Erdely, liable on 3 counts, and they were ordered to pay $3.5 million. Well, just this week they settled with Aramo, and we don't know the details of that, but maybe it's not 3.5 million, but it definitely wasn't nothing. So maybe this is the end of Aramo's long national nightmare, but Rolling Stone isn't out of it because there's still a lawsuit from the fraternity. I think some individual fraternity members are going to try to reintroduce their lawsuit that was dismissed. So this isn't over for Rolling Stone, but it might be over for Aramo. Hopefully she can move on and get back to actually helping sexual assault victims, which is all she's been doing.
Well, have individual members of the fraternity been called out? I must admit I'm not remembering the story.
Well, no.
It's just the fraternity in general.
Well, yeah, the fraternity in general, but there were 3 fraternity members who claimed that based on the limited details, whereas they went upstairs and into a bedroom, that at least people that knew them and knew what room they lived in at the fraternity house, that they were able to be identified. Their lawsuit was dismissed basically because it was like, yeah, the average person wasn't going to figure that one out. But, they think so. They think that their coworkers were, asking if they were rapists or, they were being mistreated. But the general public wouldn't have been able to identify them as potential guys. And then even if it was their room, like, there's no guarantee that they were in the room, like, rooms can be open.
Yeah.
Sure. So, but they were suing. But the fraternity itself, the Phi Kappa Psi, was also suing, and they probably have a better case. Mm-hmm. They were vandalized. They were smeared as having some sort of rape initiation ceremony. Mm-hmm. And, so they're probably, they'll probably get somewhere, especially with the Aramo case where Aramo was, the jury found for her. I can't imagine that adding that in with what was said about the fraternity, that the fraternity wouldn't win, at least partially.
Yeah, and there was property damage done too, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they had the protesters out there. The kids couldn't like live in the house because out of fear that they were going to be attacked. And, I think some windows were broken and, things were taped everywhere, calling them a bunch of rapists and everything. And it was just like, it wasn't even like, that's the problem with like campus activism is you just hear something and you automatically, start getting violent against someone without any facts.
No.
Well, it's been a long time since I've been on a college campus, but back when I was in college, people who were in fraternities let everyone know that they were in a fraternity. So I guess I don't understand how a judge could look at that and say, well, you're not personally damaged. If everyone knows you are a member of Lambda Lambda Lambda, and there's an accusation out there that there's a gang rape, individually, you're at some level your reputation is going to be smeared.
Right. I mean, maybe that's what they'll put in their amended complaint, but it still might be slightly more difficult for them just because they weren't named. It was the fraternity as a whole. But we'll see with these cases. But it's still, we also learned that it looks like Rolling Stone had finally fired Sabrina Rubin early, the author behind the hoax. They kept her on for way longer than they should have, because she should have been fired as soon as it was discovered to be a hoax. But she don't know exactly when she was fired, but there was no indication that she had been fired for, until maybe late last year. Daily Caller had an article about, court documents that said she had been quietly let go, but that was like October of 2016 or something. So it's like they kept her on for possibly 2 years after this. And it makes sense, honestly. Like it's awful and it doesn't make sense from our perspective, but from a we're being sued perspective, if you fire that person, then you're kind of showing guilt, which they're trying to claim it was, I don't know what they were trying to claim, innocent mistake, or that they weren't wrong about Ramo or something.
Well, also, Eardley seems rather unstable herself. So Rolling Stone doesn't want to fire her and anger her at the same time either, because
but what's
who
she
knows
gonna
what
do?
she'll do?
Who's gonna be like, yeah, Erdely, like, we'll take your case, or you know what, that was unfair. Why don't you come right for us? Like,
come on, Ash. Are you not familiar with Gloria Allred? She would take her case in a heartbeat just to get on television.
Yeah. I would love to see how Gloria Allred would try to spin that one, though.
I'm sure she'd come up with it. Yep.
Her editors didn't edit it properly. It was not her fault. If they had done their job, she would be fine.
Yep. It could work.
What would she do, though, if the editors were female?
They weren't, though.
Oh.
She'd then represent them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take on
the author had done her job.
Yes.
Well, let's switch gears and talk about a case in Texas that you wrote about. Apparently, there was another person who may have been falsely accused of rape on campus, and it really led to a tragedy. Can you tell us about it?
Well, he wasn't even accused of rape. The way that this got classified as sexual harassment doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There was a gay male student in a class, and then this student, Thomas Clock, who was also in the class. He's a straight male student. Thomas's version is that the gay student called him beautiful and was like glancing over at him in class, and so he asked him to stop and said he was straight. And then the gay student like typed on his laptop, "I'm gay," and the Thomas said something to the effect of like, "I think you should, like, please leave," or like, "please leave me alone," or something like that. And the kid kept glancing at him, and then this kid starts typing on his phone and laughing and being distracting. So Thomas gets up and moves to the other side of the class about 30 to 45 minutes in. And that was like the extent of it from Thomas's side. The gay student claims that he went to the professor afterwards because he was so uncomfortable. The gay student claims that he was sitting in class. Thomas made a comment about privilege in class, and then opened up his laptop and randomly typed into seemingly no one, "gays should die." And so this gay male student, I think his name is Nicholas Watson, he types into his computer, "I'm gay." And then he claims Thomas wrote in his computer, "well, then you should kill yourself." And then the gay student claims that he said, "I think you should leave." And then claims he went to the professor afterwards after being so distraught by this. And then he went to a friendly administrator who then wrote up a complaint for him claiming a sexual harassment, even though it was, anti-gay slur, not exactly sexual harassment of mine, but that's how they worked it. They didn't even go through the Title IX process that the school demands, because that would have required, a hearing for Thomas and a little bit of due process and a chance to hear his side. Instead, they kicked him out of the class, told him he couldn't contact anybody in that class, so he couldn't find witnesses on his behalf. He couldn't even talk to anybody to get the class information he missed, and yet they still made him take a test, which he failed. And then they go through this thing. The two campus administrators who were running this, sham of an investigation, the lawsuit deposed both of these administrators and also got the investigation materials. So they had the documents, so they had the story. These two administrators were talking to each other, emailing back and forth or whatever, saying there's no evidence that this happened and there's not enough to go off of. We can't really kick him out of class because we have no evidence. Oh, well, the other one was like, well, let me look into something about, making him take the class at a later date or something. And the other one was like, yep, that's great. Then they write to the kid and say, you've been found responsible for sexual harassment. Well, it's like they both said to each other, acknowledged that there was no evidence of this. And yet then they find him responsible and kick him out of the class, and he's going to get a mark on his transcript. And so the kid, Thomas, was distraught from the whole thing because he's saying this isn't what happened at all, and they're believing this kid, and he can't defend himself, and now he's being found responsible for sexual harassment. He was told by somebody that this mark on his disciplinary record was going to keep him out of grad school. And, he had apparently dreamed of going to grad school. And then after this happens, it was a few days after he was found responsible and punished, he took his own life because he just didn't see how he was going to have a future after this.
So what has been the response from the faculty after this? Are they circling the wagons?
The administrators first emailed me saying we're not commenting on an ongoing case, and then sent me two more emails. One was a statement, and then one was a wait, we updated it again statement. So the statement that I ended up printing was their final one after they took several shots at it, which was basically saying this death is tragic loss of our students is heartbreaking. Blah, 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 we feel for the family and blah, blah, blah. And then basically, that being said, we followed our procedures. And, we're basically going to fight this. It was just, so sad, but we did nothing wrong.
What would the reaction be if this were a woman?
Right.
No, that's the thing, is that if an accusing woman had taken her own life, a movie gets made, documentaries get made, articles get written up in all the mainstream media, but a male student claims he's the victim of a false accusation and nobody believes men in these cases, and he takes his own life, and it's crickets from the mainstream media. Now, right-leaning media, College Fix, Reason, National Review, who else? Town Hall, Hot Air, they've all written about it. They've all written about the Breitbart a couple times. They've all written about this, but nothing from WAPO or New York Times, who love to print every corroborated accusation from a woman, and especially if she kills herself, which is obviously tragic.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously tragic. But I feel like this is also tragic and probably should be written about in the same way.
No, can't do it. It undermines the narrative.
Well, that's the thing, is that, like, if we're supposed to believe all victims, why don't we believe men who claim to be victims of false accusations?
Well,
only
you forgot the
victims...
parenthetical that says only female victims or or those from marginalized communities.
Well, almost so many of the cases that I write about are minority men,
mm-hmm.
or like men from other countries.
Yeah.
Feel like they're more marginalized than the white women who are making the accusations.
No.
Well, I mean, that's part of the narrative too, is that no one would lie about sexual assault.
Right.
So.
Right. Because teenagers, they don't lie about anything.
No.
Ever.
Never.
If a woman is capable of taking her 3-year-old kid and murdering it and putting it in the trunk of her car and driving around town, I think women are capable of lying about sexual assault. Just saying.
Right, and when you don't have any process, and when you've made it so that the idea of innocent until proven guilty or due process is somehow harmful to victims, and you've just completely, like, destroyed the entire American criminal justice system or American justice system, where we want absolute proof that we're going to punish somebody. But on college campuses, due process is like the most evil thing in the world. And if you give any protection to an accused student, you're protecting rapists and you're further victimizing a victim. It's like, we don't know they're a victim.
Right. Well, that was the thing with the Rolling Stone case. They kept insisting that Jackie chick was still a victim.
Right.
Even though there was no rape.
Right. There was not even a dude. There was not even a man.
Yes.
There wasn't a party at the fraternity that night. They have time-stamped photos from that night at the time that she was supposed to be getting raped. And it's one dude moving a chair in an empty room. Because there was nobody. It was supposed to be a packed house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like wall-to-wall packed. And it was like, this dude was just cleaning up a room. Like moving a chair.
Cleaning up the scene of a crime, Ash.
Yes.
Right. The party just completely disappeared by like midnight on a Friday or Saturday.
Sure. She's traumatized though. Just PTSD.
Right. She's a victim.
From an experience that never took place.
Right.
And I guess we'll have to leave it at that. Ash, well, is there anything else you want to touch on before we let you go?
No, I think the campus stuff, I mean, like, this Thomas Clock story is just incredibly depressing, and people need to pay more attention, because we knew this was going to happen one day. These kids that get accused end up becoming suicidal. Some of them try it, don't go through with it, think about it heavily, have to go into therapy. This kid did it, and we need to really look at what we're doing to these young kids.
And we'll leave it right there. Follow Ash on Twitter at Ashe Schow, and of course you can check out all of her work at the New York Observer. And where else, Ash?
For right now, watchdog.org.
Check her out there. Thanks a lot, Ash. We'll talk to you next week. Okay, Tracy. I'm the father of 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a helicopter parent.
No.
Your kids from time to time are going to fall, skin their knees. You don't need to be hovering over them 24/7, but you're seeing more and more where helicopter parenting is becoming the norm. And if you aren't a helicopter parent and you do something that's kind of out of the box and someone else sees it, they may call the police on you when it comes to parenting. And you got a story from Reason that's very interesting.
Yes, this is the story of Mr. Mike Tang, who spent the night in jail and is now being also forced to do community service of picking up trash because he was punishing his 7-year-old son who was having some trouble in school and not keeping up with his schoolwork, etc. And the punishment that Tang decided to dish out was dropping his son off about a mile from their home and I guess making him walk back. And it was 7:45 in the evening. This took place in Southern California. And so Tang left his son there to walk home and then eventually went back to pick him up. So this was according to this Reason article, about a 10-minute gap in time where this 7-year-old was left to fend for himself, or excuse me, 8-year-old. And in that 10-minute window, some other helicopter parents decided to call the police.
Right.
Because God forbid an 8-year-old walk down a public city sidewalk by himself at 7:45 at night. So Tang was arrested, spent the night in jail, and then a jury, which is just unbelievable to me that 12 adults could sit there and listen to this, convicted him of child endangerment. And then the judge sentenced him to parenting classes, which are probably provided by the state.
Right.
And a 56-day work release program, including picking up trash and doing other menial work. And I kind of love this Mike Tang character because he's refusing to serve that sentence. So now there's a warrant out for his arrest. And they sent him the warrant, and he wrote F you all on it and sent it back.
What I find amazing about this is, I have a 7-year-old. She's going to be 8 soon. I would never do this. Okay. But I remember when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, my parents would be in jail or would have been in jail. One's dead. But back when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, they'd be in jail for letting me do what I did back then if they were held to this standard today. I mean, absolutely. Kids would run the neighborhood, during the summer. I would get up and play baseball at a park all day, wouldn't come home for lunch. It would tick off my mom. Today, if some neighbors were to see a bunch of kids playing in the park all day with no parental supervision, oh my gosh. God. Call 911.
Right. I don't know why people. I just hate this turning to the state for everything business. Like, let's get the police involved.
Right.
No, can you not approach an 8-year-old child and just say, "Do you need help?"
Well, in this day and age, you can't.
Right.
You do, then it's why is a stranger talking to an 8-year-old kid? So then you get busted for trying to help the 8-year-old. No, I'm not doing anything suspicious. I'm just wanting to see if the kid's okay. Oh yeah, sure, buddy.
Right.
Get back in the white van.
But this is just, I don't know. I mean, 2 stories come to mind for me. One of them is about Richard Branson, who everybody knows is the billionaire that owns Virgin and his own island where our former president goes to play. And I remembered hearing a story about him that when he was 7 years old, his mother was upset with him because he was very shy and introverted. So she decided to teach him a lesson. Not Arrested Development style, which I know will be lost on you, Fingers, but anybody that's watched that show will know what I'm talking about. Jeffrey Tambor had an interesting way of teaching the children in that family lessons that involved a one-armed man. But anyway, so Richard Branson's mother did something very similar. She dropped him off a couple miles from the house and had him walk home, and he credited that with, making him feel like he could persevere no matter what. And then the other is Daniel Farragut, who I believe was the first United States naval admiral, I want to say. First admiral of the United States Navy. He was a midshipman at the age of 9.
What?
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. Well, not now. You have to wrap all kids in bubble wrap before they leave the house, and they must have an adult accompany them wherever they go. But we're out of time, Tracy.
All right.
That's another Enough Already. Our thanks go out to Ashe Schow. Check out the new website, enoughалready.us. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with an all-new Enough Already.
Enough Already Radio is on Facebook. Check out the fan page, facebook.com/Enough Already Podcast.
Okay, and we're back with bonus content, Tracy Connors.
Bonus.
Now, this is very exciting because, I mentioned earlier in the show that we're launching our website, enoughалready.us. And I have to say right off the bat that this never would have happened if it were not for Tracy Connors. And it is amazing to me how quickly she was able to put this site together. And you worked very, very hard, Tracy, and I want to thank you for doing so, because I'm very happy with how it looks. And if you need a website, contact Tracy.
Yeah, I'm just happy everything worked when I clicked publish.
But thank you, because if you look at enoughlalready.us right now, I've been kind of tied up a little bit the last couple of days, and I think there's 30 some odd posts on it right now. Isn't there something crazy like that?
33 posts have been published.
And it's by Tracy Connors. And we also have unpaid intern, who has also stepped up to the plate. And
unpaid intern's a bit opinionated.
So, want to thank unpaid intern. But I feel like because you've been writing so much, and I have been away from the computer all day, that you are a wealth of knowledge today.
You would think,
as far as current events goes. So, I mean, what did you write about? What's been going on?
Well, today was the left had planned this for, I think, 2 months now, since February. One of them on Twitter came up with the idea, like, we should have tax day marches. Sound familiar, Fingers? Do you remember 2009 when it started? And then that's also Patriots Day today.
Okay.
And I only know that because in the wake of the Boston Marathon bombing, the Boston Marathon takes place on Patriots Day typically. I think it was Chris Matthews that rushed to television to talk about how it was Patriots Day. So obviously this is right wing, homegrown terrorism and nothing to do with Islam. So anyway, the left planned to have what they called the tax march today. And do you want to venture a guess at why they're marching on tax day?
Well, it's patriotic to pay your taxes, Tracy.
Yes, that's what they're doing. It's a celebration of how excited they are to cut checks to the IRS.
Oh, my God. So, was there a big turnout?
Yeah, it was in cities all over the country, but you still haven't guessed as to why they chose today and what the main rallying cry was, because we know with lefty protests there's always multiple things being, grievances being aired, but there was a central focus of this one.
Well, April 15th. Well, I would think that this time around, because they're still not giving up on Trump's tax return. Is that what they're protesting today?
Yes, show us the taxes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I think that Trump, even if, I'm not buying the whole I'm being audited, I think now he's just trolling these people.
Absolutely. I kind of wish, what was it, which Batman Tim Burton one was it with Joker flying? I feel like he was in a helicopter dropping money on everybody.
Yes.
Trump she should have done that today from Marine One. You've seen 1 year of his tax returns, and it's almost as tall as the healthcare bill that you stood next to several CPACs ago.
Right. Just
start dropping those out of Marine One on the crowd assembled in front of the Capitol.
To the Prince song Party Man.
Oh, man. Yeah, so they were out all over the country marching around. There were some excellent pictures that were on Twitter that I grabbed and threw into a post. Some pretty clever signs, actually. And their graphic design is always spot on. So somebody remade the Monopoly Man and made him look like Trump. So it's weird because it kind of ended up looking a little bit like the Notre Dame Fighting Irishman.
Oh, really?
Which I find incredibly offensive. Of Irish heritage.
Listen, that's the thing that drives me nuts when, every 3 years lefties get on we need to get the Washington Redskins name changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also Irish. And you look at Notre Dame on a Saturday, and you've got that dancing leprechaun in the end zone. The only thing it's missing is a flask in its back pocket to make the stereotype complete. The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Somehow I'm able to function on a daily basis, even though I know that Notre Dame is using the leprechaun as a mascot. insults our heritage, Tracy.
It really does. I find it wildly offensive, and I think we should start a movement. And speaking of, I'm not sure if you've read James O'Keefe's book. I'm going to guess that the answer is no.
No, I have not.
But I believe it was in there, and he's talked about it also in other places. One of the first things he started doing in his long, illustrious trolling career was when he was at Rutgers, he used their code of conduct, or whatever the hell they call it, like their diversity respect thing, to have Lucky Charms banned from the school
I remember that.
cafeterias. The dining halls, yes. Well, I mean, if you're playing by the rules, that this is where it ends up. So that's what he said. Make them live up to their own rules. So you just stage a little, we're super offended protest, and Lucky Charms are no more.
And so many leftists on campus are looking for a new cause.
Mm-hmm.
Cereal.
There you go. I think they have their hands full, though, fingers, fighting real oppression.
Like what? This week?
Well, let's see. This week, it's about, we're on the gender pronouns as far as I can tell still.
Well, there's outrage everywhere. I mean, like you said, on Saturday, they're marching to try to force Trump's hand on his tax returns. I wrote a piece for enoughlalready.us. PETA is up in arms over the Detroit Red Wings tradition, fans throwing an octopus on the ice during the game. And so PETA wrote a letter to Red Wings ownership demanding that any fan that throws an octopus on the ice be banned for life from attending a Red Wings game, and also they would like the city of Detroit to fine that person $5,000.
It's never going to happen. And that's a tradition that goes back decades, right?
1952.
Okay. And they just caught wind of this?
Yes. It goes back to, Detroit is one of the original 6 teams in the NHL, and back then you would have to win 2 best-of-7 playoff series to win the Stanley Cup. So you'd have to get 8 wins in the playoffs.
Right. Well, if the series goes to a full 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to win.
Oh, no,
games.
You're right. Yeah.
You have to win 8 games no matter what. So that was the tradition. So there's a place in Royal Oak where you go to get your octopus to throw on the ice. They arrived to this place in Royal Oak, this fish market, frozen. They're already dead.
Oh, it's not the cryogenic type for reanimation purposes?
No, it's not Walt Disney. So PETA is up in arms, and they say it's a waste. And I say, screw that. Who gives a shit about an octopus? I mean, really?
Well, they're delicious.
Are they?
Yeah, you've had calamari, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't ask questions.
Yeah, it's octopus.
Oh, well, what do you know? Yeah, it is delicious.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what's that deep fried thing? Don't even tell me.
That's pretty much how it goes with me.
Yes, we know.
Put it in breading and deep fry it, and I'll eat it.
There you are.
You learn something every day, I guess. Learn something.
You never knew what that was. You were just eating it.
No.
What did you think it was?
I had no idea. I knew it was seafood.
Oh, okay.
And somebody, ordered it, and I tried it. This is calamari. Oh, okay. Oh, it's good. Dip it in some cocktail sauce.
Yep, that's the way it's done.
Oh.
Yeah, it's only good when it's deep fried.
Yeah, now I'm on PETA's side. What a waste. It's delicious.
Well, who's to say? I mean, if it was frozen and then it's thrown on ice, I mean, it could still be fried up and battered.
That's true. Well, it's battered, just in a different way.
Oh, man.
But can you imagine to have so little going on in your life that you see this tradition, and I guess the last night at Joe Louis Arena for the Red Wings was just a couple of weeks ago, and they're moving into a new arena in the fall. So the place was packed, and I think they threw somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 35 octopuses onto the ice. And there was someone watching that from PETA, and they thought to themselves, I need Susan here to take a letter. And they wrote a letter to the Red Wings ownership because they were outraged that a bunch of frozen octopi were thrown on the ice.
Well, they got to stay in business, right?
That's what it's all about. I mean, I wonder how much fundraising they got out of that letter.
Oh, I'm sure a ton.
They send the letter, and then they send an email out to all their PETA maniacs out there.
Pedophiles?
Yeah, pedophiles. See, we're doing something. We're taking a stand against the NHL.
Yes.
Won't you send us $25 to join the fight? Ugh.
They're disgusting.
We're in the wrong business.
I know. We got to find some cause to get people outraged about.
I think it's the Notre Dame Leprechaun.
Maybe, but I don't want them to change it. I actually like it.
Well, I don't want them to change it either. I want to fight against it and keep raising money and have Notre Dame be defiant.
But they might cave. Anymore, you never know.
Yeah, that's true.
They might cave and change it to something like a harp. Like the Guinness harp. The clovers.
So what else happened today?
Well, at a tax march that was taking place, like I said, they were all over the country. In Austin, Mike Cernovich happened to be in town because I think he went down there to be on Alex Jones's show or InfoWars or some such thing. So he was in Austin, and he headed over there with Joe Biggs, who's a reporter for InfoWars. And Mike, at some point, got up on the stage and started informing the crowd that Bill Clinton is a rapist. Now, if you'll remember from the campaign, they put a price tag on people that would jump up at the Hillary rallies and yell that. I can't remember how much Alex put up. It was like 100,000, and then if you did it, you got $5,000 or something. So it was happening all over the country, and people are making their local news for shouting Bill Clinton's a rapist and getting dragged out. So anyway, so Mike gets up there, shouts all that. And, you know, he periscopes mostly his entire life. So this is all captured. And I threw all of this into a post. And then as he leaves the stage, he's just surrounded by all these lefties. Like, you're terrible, you're awful, shame, 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 that whole thing. And then he's walking along, and this is from Biggs's camera. And you see this dude, he's a little bit flabby, just all of a sudden throw a sucker punch at Mike. And you can't tell if he connected or not. And in the subsequent video, Mike said he actually ducked and the guy punched his phone that was in his hand instead of Mike. And but then Mike and Joe Biggs said they resorted to, I can't remember the legalese they couched this in, but reasonable self-defense, I believe, was the terminology that was used.
Yeah.
And so Mike has video where he's got his knuckles are all bloodied up, but they're also walking along with cops after this went down. So he's like, all these cops saw it happen, but this is what's going to happen if you guys start throwing punches, which takes us to Berkeley, where there was a free speech rally planned for at least a month and a half, regardless of what the people on Twitter who are saying this is a Russian psyop are saying. I will get to that. Where Lauren Southern from Rebel was going to speak, and a few other people. Based Stickman was supposed to be there. I believe Gavin McInnes and his Proud Boys were showing up. And they knew that this was going to be a face-off, right? Mm-hmm. After the last Berkeley anti-Trump rally turned pretty violent. Well, this went on all day. Well, not all, a few hours. And there's hardly any cops to be seen in any of the videos. But there's lots of fists flying, mace everywhere. I don't know why people have resorted to flagpole carrying, but those are being used pretty effectively. Antifa was throwing M80s into crowds.
Oh, nice.
It got pretty bad. I mean, there's some footage where there's people just like bleeding. The one that's being passed around now and has been memed Punch a Commie, which was bound to happen after Antifa celebrated punching Richard Spencer with the Punch a Nazi theme. So there's some what appears to be a woman, but I hate gendering people without knowing for certain how they would like to be referred to, with dreadlocks, about to cold cock a man wearing something like Jesus Saves t-shirt or something like this. And some other dude just gets in there and punches her right in the face.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep. It's bad. But this is totally expected. And, you know, the right's had enough with this stuff. You guys have been burning down cities for, what, the last 6 years? I can't remember when the first time was that CVS acted up. I don't know if it was...
Was that Baltimore?
I don't know if it was Baltimore. No, Ferguson happened before Baltimore.
Yeah, but did they burn down a CVS in Ferguson?
No, but I mean, that's our shorthand between you and I, so that everybody's aware that when this stuff happens... When one of these looks like it's about to happen, one of us will hit up the other one and say, uh-oh, CVS acted up again. And that comes from the afternoon that the Baltimore stuff broke. And was it CNN that just had the live stream blocked off on the front of a CVS store?
Yes.
And we sat for hours captivated as people ran in and out, stealing everything in the store.
It was amazing because before that happened, a few blocks away, someone decided... to get revenge over the killing of who was it that died in that?
Freddie Gray.
Freddie Gray. First, they attacked the liquor store that killed Freddie Gray.
Yes.
And they went in and they just looted the place. And then they moved to the CVS that killed Freddie Gray. And looted the place and burnt the thing to the ground. Getting revenge.
It was just so wild to watch people running out with jumbo packs of toilet paper and paper towels, like big smiles on their faces. Yeah. They've been waiting their whole lives just to be able to swipe that off the CVS shelf. It was some giant victory and payback. But yeah, but this Berkeley thing has been percolating, and Berkeley's always been a hotbed of lefty ridiculousness nonsense. Like, they're the free speech movement was birthed there, don't you know? And everybody likes to be all nostalgic and think about how wonderful they are. But there's a good book that's called The Return of the Primitive. It's a collection of essays that Ayn Rand wrote starting in, I believe, the early 60s. And one of the earliest chapters, if not the first one, is about the free speech movement at Berkeley. And the way that she described it, it sounds like this is the stuff coming out of the people's mouths today, where they're saying that, oh, words are violence, and therefore it's totally justifiable to use physical force to fight back. And so this stuff got, you know, it started when Milo went there and they shut him down and caused something like $100,000 worth of damage. Then there was round 2 that saw the birth of Stickman, who was the first to use one of these flagpoles to beat back the Antifa. And then round 3 went down today. And the last I saw, I think the arrest count was at 15.
Oh, so there were a few police officers there.
Yeah. But I mean,
That's
there's helicopter footage where you think that it's a line of cops versus a line of protesters. And then you realize that, oh, no, the Antifa guys are just all wearing black. So they look like cops in riot gear. But it's a wall of Antifa versus pro-Trump or pro-free speech or whatever that the other side wanted to call themselves.
Why do you got to dress in black and hide your face?
Because you're super proud of what you're doing and you want to stand out so everybody can recognize your heroism.
Yeah, in D.C. during the inauguration, they were just like running down the street and sucker punching people.
Mm-hmm.
And moving along.
Yeah. Well, they've taken that show on the road. They're in every city now punching people.
And
but
running.
now people are getting punched back. So it's entertaining, although a little bit frightening.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't throw the first punch, you haven't violated the non-aggression principle.
Remember when people were worried about the knockout game, Tracy?
Yes.
Well, that seems like about 3 decades ago.
Yeah.
Now you just have roving gangs dressed in black with their faces covered, coming up and punching you and not sticking around for you to defend yourself.
Right. Well, it's funny because I've seen some of the talk on the Chan boards from them, and they're like, hey guys, we should probably rethink like this whole only wearing masks stuff and maybe look into helmets. because the guys that were out fighting us today, they had baseball helmets and like boxing helmets and all these different things. And it's a lot easier to get hit in the head if you're wearing a helmet. Okay. Like you guys can't even plan the proper apparel to wear when you know you're going to get in a street brawl. I mean, it's worth watching the videos just to see how people are dressed. I saw dudes in like straight up the boxing helmets. You know, they're the leather padded things. And they're not in shape or anything like that. They're just like, whatever. One of my favorites, like pot-bellied guy in a Captain America t-shirt that was 2 sizes too small. Wearing a baseball helmet that he probably ripped the 2 beer holsters off the sides of it before he walked out of the house today.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
And then part of me wants to get in the middle of that. And then part of me realizes I'm way too old to be.
Oh, you want to? Oh, I thought you meant when you said get in the middle of it. I pictured you running down the street and being like, "Guys, can't we all just get along?"
No.
You want to go stand up to the Antifa?
Yeah, because I think it's really pussy-like to dress in black, hide your face, get 50 of you together, and go running around and just punching people in the face and keep running.
Well, Fingers, that's because you don't realize that this is a huge Russian op. I'm kid you not. Our favorite Russian conspiracist, Louise Mensch, is all over Twitter spreading this around. Yep. This whole thing is a distraction tactic. The Russians are famous for these kind of things. They've been doing it for almost 100 years. Like, you guys just don't know what you're looking at. Wake up.
The Russians.
Yep. No, she's nuts.
But
she's not the only one.
No.
Right. No, I saw somebody that I can't remember his name now. I have his tweet in the post I wrote up about this. That was from the Cruz campaign, agreeing with this nonsense. This is a Russian tactic. It's distracting. And somebody's saying, "Oh, it's they did this to distract from the tax day marches." No, this was planned months ago. Has nothing to do with your silly tax march. Most of the people that are on the right didn't even know you guys were going to go out and march today.
I had no idea this was happening.
Right.
I was just minding my own business trying to buy Easter candy.
Well, you don't take Putin's calls anymore. That's why you didn't know.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to somehow anger him, and then someone's going to jump out of the bushes with the heart attack gun, and it's over. Clayton's.
Oh, man. I got to go find that, too, because I don't know if we've discussed that. The Louise Mensch is operating under the theory that Andrew Breitbart was murdered by Vladimir Putin to make way for Trump and Bannon to take over the United States government.
And Andrew died, I believe, in 2012.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. It was 12. I was going to say 13. My God. 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But they knew that if they got, of all people, Andrew Breitbart out of the way.
Yeah, he would have been the only thing that could have stopped Trump.
Yeah, usher in the era of Trump. If we could just get Andrew, and I love Andrew, but, come on, please. Andrew wouldn't have stopped it.
Yeah, well, she's a crackpot that has 230,000 Twitter followers and used to be a member of parliament, so. Good times.
Good drugs.
Yeah. And then another news, since we recorded, we dropped what is being referred to as the mother of all bombs.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like 22,000 pounds.
I don't know. They kept talking about the poundage as if I care. Like, what's the destruction? What does it look like on the other side?
You don't want to be on the other end of it. That's all I know.
Well, yeah, obviously. I wouldn't want to be on the other end of a 5-pound bomb. But, supposedly this was dropped on a tunnel system that Al-Qaeda uses to operate in Anbar province, I'm going to say, because that's the only one that I know in Afghanistan.
Now, these tunnels aren't like the tunnels that my friend at work tells me about that were dug by aliens. You can go from L.A. to Washington, D.C. in 90 minutes. It's not those tunnels.
It could be. It could be part of that system.
Oh, geez.
The aliens are very into subterranean travel.
That's true.
No, these were, tunnels that Al-Qaeda built. I've seen people online saying that they were actually built by the CIA in the 80s when, the Afghan-Russian war was going on. Who the hell knows anymore? Like we were talking about before we started recording, neither one of us trust anything anybody says anymore. It's gotten to that point.
Well, if they were built in the 80s, I mean, what about the crumbling infrastructure of those tunnels, Tracy?
I know.
My gosh. How are they able to survive?
I do not know. Maybe they have really good public works projects going on over there in Afghanistan. And hell, I don't know. Maybe they use them to move heroin. If you're using tunnels to move drugs, you're going to keep them in damn good shape.
That's right. There are no bureaucrats in the way of any kind of tunnel improvements. It's just the drug money.
Yeah. No, if bureaucrats get in the way, they lose their heads pretty quickly.
That's right.
So my understanding is that the blast radius of this thing is about a mile on the ground.
Wow.
So boom. And then it begs, okay, if we knew about this and these tunnels are being used to smuggle, I would assume weapons if we're destroying them, something to get to the front, then why are we just doing this now?
Well, again, it's been thrown out there that we dropped that bomb to send a message to someone else, in this case, North Korea.
Which could be true. We can send cheaper messages, though. I mean, these things ain't cheap. How
much is a telegram nowadays?
I don't even know if they exist anymore.
They don't? Oh, my God.
I don't know. I mean, Gmail's free.
Yeah.
I just don't know how good the Wi-Fi is in Pyongyang.
Well, that's I figured. You'd have to send a telegram.
We could just send Dennis Rodman. He can talk that dude into and out of everything.
Yeah.
And they're buddies. Remember, he was a Celebrity Apprentice.
That's true. And what could happen, he could just send him over there and give, what's his name?
Oh, Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un? Cuban super aids.
There you go.
Solves
Well, wouldn't it be great if he just toppled the regime and ended up being their new supreme leader? That place would be so much more colorful and entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a good situation with them. You're talking about a madman who's got potentially nuclear weapons, although it seems like he can't get one to fly straight and work. But he's not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, even, Saddam in the early 90s could at least get a scud over to Israel.
Oh, sure.
Boy.
No, I mean, they've made their way all these years and stayed isolated by just threatening to do this kind of stuff. So now you've got China is refusing their coal shipments, which is a new development. But at the same time, I would suggest that you go check out the interview with Michael Malice on Tucker. Malice wrote a book that's excellent and funny called Dear Reader, the Unauthorized Autobiography of Kim Jong-il. And he went there, and I think he spent about a week or so in the country and then read 60-plus books about it and tried to capture their insane mythology and then write an autobiography as if he was Kim Jong-il.
Yeah.
And so it's completely serious in the telling, but it's so ridiculous, the stuff that they believe. But, I mean, they're brainwashed from birth pretty much to hate us and the Japanese. And they're all prepared that at some point the nasty Yankees are going to come back and kill them all. So everybody in the country is aware of this. And Malice, laid this all out and the way that they think, the Juche philosophy. And Tucker said, well, what's the solution? And Malice is just like, anybody that tells you there's a simple solution is lying. There isn't one. It's impossible. Like, the Chinese don't want, I can't remember what the population is, 20-something million. 20 million illiterates that don't even speak Chinese, that have never seen a computer, like pouring over their borders as refugees.
Right.
So they don't have any interest in like disrupting the regime. They want to keep them in check, obviously. Like, they don't want him firing missiles off into China. And then the South Koreans, I mean, who knows if they want to take them. I mean, there is the Korean people do believe that they're all one people. So it's a very odd kind of thing. The Japanese don't like them and they don't like the Japanese. And then there's us in the mix. So it's just a mess. So according to Malice, like they've threatened everybody that's in those camps of theirs, which the estimates range from 100 to 120,000 people in those camps, that as soon as war breaks out with the, I can't remember what they call us. I know they call them the Jap bastards. And I don't know if it's Yankee imperialists or something more original. But as soon as fighting breaks out, they're all going to be executed. It's a tough call.
We need to drop Pepsi on them.
There you go.
Solve everything. Well, that's 30 minutes, Tracy.
Excellent. That sounds like enough bonus content to keep everybody happy.
Didn't really swear.
I know, it's a fucking shame.
There you go. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Check out enoughlalready.us. There'll be fresh content on that sucker daily, Tracy.
That's what we're committing to right now. Hold us to it.
So check that out. And remember, you can always catch us on Facebook as well. Enough Already podcast there. And follow me on Twitter at Fingers Malloy. Follow Tracy on Twitter at Tracy L. Connors. Final thoughts, Tracy?
Meh.
Exactly. We'll be back next week with an all new Enough Already.